How's it going, everybody? Today is the 10th of August, a day after Women's Day. So before I go any further, to all the ladies who fraternize our channel and our podcasts and, of course, our Twitter and our YouTube, thank you so much. We do appreciate your support, and a happy Women's Day to you. I think as South African men collectively, we know there's room to improve and to make sure that every Women's Day is one where women of this country are seen in a stronger and better light. And so thank you for affording us this Monday afternoon as the guys to convene and have a chat around what's been happening in South African football. We've switched things up a little bit for our panel this afternoon. I'm joined by Jonty, Mazola, Molefe, two familiar faces, but then we're joined by Shu-Aib, the former Ajax keeper and a keeper who's had a long career in the ABSA Premiership, and thought would be a good place to start as we look at the resumption of football at the weekend. Good afternoon, gents, and thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. Since you're the newbie, Shu-Aib, I'll start with you. It all happened this weekend with Baroka now having to focus on surviving as they were dumped out of the Nedbank Cup at the hands of a Bloemfontein Celtic, who we didn't know what kind of Celtic side would pitch up under their new coach, but he kept things pretty much the same, as he kind of alluded to. I think he'll probably try to make things different in the off-season. But yeah, what did you make of Bloemfontein Celtic overcoming Baroka in the Nedbank Cup semi?
Yeah, I think it was a good game under the circumstances. You know, having such a long break, change in the head coach position. But I didn't expect John Maduka to change much, because he's been working with Siema for a while, and Simon Kopani as well. I think to be honest, Baroka was in the game, even when there were 10 men, even when after the red card, they actually got, for me, the best chance when Bloemfontein Celtics keeper made a brilliant save. I think had the striker gone down, they would have been awarded a penalty.
Right.
In that sense, and I won't analyze too much, but I think for the start of the resumption of football, it was good to get 8 goals over the whole weekend. I don't want to get too, because I'm pretty analytical and critical when it comes to our goalkeepers.
Right.
I know people are talking about Brighton Flongo, having a nightmare. I think Baroka's goalkeeper as well was also in that same pool, having a bit of a bad game, coming out a bit erratic at times, but also understandable at the end of the day with the long break that they've had, and especially in the goalkeeping department, needing more game time to improve.
Okay, no, for sure. Let's look at that. I mean, that'll come into the spotlight, Mazola, in terms of players being rusty and Chibzeze coming under the spotlight as the keeper for Baroka. But I guess we would have seen a different game had it been 11v11. And so it was always going to be tough when you're coming back, when you're not fully fit, to be 10 versus 11. And that kind of played into the hands of Celtic, didn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if Chipezeze's being erratic has anything to do with the long break. He's often very erratic. So maybe even more so after the long break. But look, I agree, because obviously we have a goalkeeper here who would have analyzed it more with critical eyes, and he's spot on. I think the amount of goals conceded and the manner in which the goals were conceded as well. I was speaking to Steve Kompela earlier today, and he raised a similar concern. The intervals in which games are won and lost, and that we're gonna see a lot more of that. He says while they were still gearing up for the restart here in SA, looking at all other countries where football has restarted, it's the same theme, and we can probably expect that in SA as well, especially with the injuries as well, hamstrings and whatever. So yeah, let's see. Obviously, I think in as much as the goalkeepers came under the spotlight, the fitness trainers could possibly come under the spotlight as well, to see who overloaded the players more than they were supposed to, and that kind of stuff. I mean, Coach Pito did say last week that they prepared the team incorrectly because they had a certain timeline, dates in which they thought they would restart. And then when that didn't happen, players started getting injuries, muscle injuries and that. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's not alone. He's, the rest of his rivals are in the same boat as well. So, yeah, let's see tomorrow night. Big games coming up. Wits, Chiefs, Pirates and Orlando, Pirates and Mamelodi Sundowns. So, yeah, it's going to be quite interesting from that perspective as well.
Yeah, and I guess, Jonty, what's going to be interesting as well is how well, coaches make a use of their substitutions bench. In the case of Celtic, it was Litwala who came on and got himself a brace. And obviously in this time where players are still trying to find their feet, it's about finding that balance of putting out a team, but then complementing it at the right junctures in the match with the right personnel to try to just get it over the line.
Yeah, I mean, and with the extra substitutions, it definitely makes it more interesting. Pitzo did mention after the game that he had to ask, I think, the fourth official or someone whether he could make any more substitutions, because it's obviously something that these guys are going to have to work out, because it's only in certain sections that you can make them, and then it becomes a bit more complicated. But as you say, Letsuala did come on and bag a couple of goals. Mahalwa, I think, also came off the bench for Sundowns, and even though he was kind of gifted a goal by Brighton and Plongo, he took it well. And yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see. Obviously, and with the injuries, there will be some enforced substitutions, like Tani for Celtic, whose hamstring went in the first half. And I think, Tukumanja had to go off there right at the end for Wits. I don't know if he'll be fit for the Chiefs game, but I think that was kind of inevitable. They haven't had enough time. It's a simple fact to get themselves in a condition where they can stave off injuries better than they would as well as possible. I think there will be more injuries than usual. I think that's inevitable. I think sides like Sundowns, who have massive squads, are definitely have an advantage in that sense, because they can kind of pick and mix a bit. But other sides with smaller squads I think they're gonna struggle, and that's obviously why some of these MDC players have been allowed to be called up as well. So we might see some good youngsters getting a good opportunity as well in the next couple of weeks or in the next month or so.
Shu-Aib, when we look at that and look at the whole situation of these players not being able to have friendlies before the resumption of football, how much of your full footballing potential for the season is removed if you don't get the chance to have contact type training and contact type friendlies so that you can get match fit, as it were? If a game comes around and you haven't been able to do that, what percentage roughly are you operating it coming into the game?
Look, for me as a player, I feel for them all. I feel for all the teams, even international football. I don't think us as Africans should expect good quality football. I think what we should expect is a lot of fight, a lot of gripe, and so entertaining football. Should we expect it? No, I don't think. I think it's going to be more result driven. So going into, look. You would end the season middle towards end of May.
Yeah.
So, and you'd resume end of June, which means you'd start playing friendlies already early July. So you're looking at about 6 weeks. Now we sit with more than double that time alone at home training, and then you're playing 11v11, but it's amongst yourselves, and you're not, like you're saying, you're not getting that. The Black Label Calling Cup, or you're not getting the Mayoral Cup. So you're not getting, and that is where, especially your defenders, your goalkeepers, the more games they play competitively prepares them, the less mistakes you make, because that's where you iron it out. Right. And I know that we've been looking at football across the world, and we see that more defenders are making errors than the goalkeepers in this time. But I do think that is goalkeepers and defenders, when you make mistakes, it's obviously resulted and it will be seen. Midfielders can still hide it. The strikers can miss a chance and you can still hide it. So maybe it's not been seen as much now, as much as the defenders, but you do go into the matches with a big disadvantage, I think. No, not disadvantage, but more like you're saying, with less percentage of the quality.
Okay. And Mazet, I mean, all these four teams will be glad to have that match under their belt. We've spoken about it, how it benefits these four to start with a match and now go into the league games. But it was a weekend of errors, and we've spoken about goalkeepers. But maybe now, as we focus on the Sundowns and Wits game, we can then, like to Shu-Aib's point, speak about the defenders as well. That, you know, at the end of the day, it just became about rustiness, about not having that refined approach to your game because you're literally starting cold, so to speak. And we just saw, I guess, a comedy of errors at times, but whilst the neutral would have enjoyed all the goals, that's the kind of stuff that you want to get out of the way as quickly as possible as these four teams. And then in the case of Sundowns now, because now they're in a final, and of course they're on the hunt to try and usurp Chiefs at the top of the table.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, it's important to even go back to Shu-Aib's point about getting games under your belt to iron out some issues, because the two errors from Madisha, okay, maybe you have to give Terence Jukamanja, you know, some kind of applaud for his high press and being able to put the defender under pressure. But at the same time, you know, under normal circumstances, I don't think that's an error Madisha makes in a game, especially in a game with such high stakes. You know, he doesn't give away the ball when he knows that the guy who's pressing him is quicker, you know, and a bit more nippy as well, you know. So if he had a couple of friendly games against similar oppositions, because remember when they play friendly games, these teams play against each other as well, you know. So he would have been on his toes, knowing how good Terence Jukamanja is. But because he hasn't played against such a quick, nippy attacker in about nearly 5 months, you know, the basics sometimes can elude you. In as much as we pointed out about the goalkeepers, they know exactly what to do, the timing, when to come out, when not to come out. But when you've not really had action for 5 months, some of the basics can elude you. So, you know, let's see if Coach Pizzo changes it up tomorrow night against Orlando Pirates. I think if he does, it'll hurt Madisha's ego. So I expect Madisha to still get the nod to play alongside Nascimento. And hopefully they've ironed out those issues, because remember, they've got Gabadinho Mango, they've got Tembinkosi Lodge, you know, your Justin Shongas, Mulenga. Pirates have quick attackers, you know, so they're gonna face the same type of pressure and the pressing style that they received from Bidvest Wits. And by the way, Wits don't press as high up as Orlando Pirates under Joseph Zinbao. So if you give Mango and Lodge and Memela space to press you like that and put you under pressure, you get punished, you know. So yeah, it's those last few minutes of the game. The early minutes, as we've seen abroad and even here at home, the early minutes, and very, very much late in the game when the defenders sort of lose focus. And of course, their mistakes, as Shu-Aib pointed out, their mistakes are highlighted more than the midfielders and the forwards.
I mean, it took quite the goal to settle matters, Jonty. A beautiful free kick from Lala K. But, you know, once again, some people, if they're being really cynical, would have looked at that and thought maybe Brighton could have, you know, gone a yard to his right. We'll analyze that in terms of, you know, the specifics with Shu-Aib as the goalkeeper. But just looking at that, has he made what does Gavin do now? Obviously, you know, the suspensions related to Ricardo Goss. This was an opportunity for Brighton maybe just to stake a claim for this, you know, short format of the resumption of the season to be the man between the sticks. Do you think he's hurt or, you know, will there be an understanding for the chances moving forward?
I don't think Brighton will play again if Goss is fit and, you know, unsuspended, which he is for the Chiefs game. If you look at Brighton, I don't blame him entirely. I mean, Shu-Aib will give a more expert answer to this, but I do think he could have got to the free kick better than he did. And obviously he was at fault for the Sundowns second goal when he just came charging off. When you come out of your goal like that, you really have to get the ball, and he didn't. And, you know, that left an open goal for Mazola. But I do think that it's not. The reason I don't is because Brighton's played so little football in the last few seasons. I mean, he not only the lockdown for 5 months, he barely played before the lockdown. He didn't. play at all the previous season. He played like 8 times for Chipper United the previous season. He only played half of Orlando Pirates games the season before that. He's not played a lot of football. So for him to come into a high-profile game like this and give a fault-free performance would almost have been a miracle. So in that sense, I don't blame him. But I think Goss is a good young keeper. Obviously, he's going to probably go to Sundowns next season, almost certainly. Although they haven't officially announced it yet. Yeah, I think he'll get back in goal, and Peterson is second choice for Wits if he's fit again this season, and Bryson will go back to being on the bench, which is kind of where he's been for most of his time at Wits, to be honest.
Right.
So yeah, I don't see him staking a claim, and he certainly didn't help his cause. Even though I don't blame him really, because he hasn't played. He's played so little football.
Let's look at those moments, Shu-Aib, in terms of, obviously the one where he comes out. You still feel that Tyson's kind of closest to him and might be able to recover in that situation. He didn't have to run out. And then, of course, the free kick. Take us through those in terms of your professional assessment of where he was in those moments.
Yeah, no, the second goal. First of all, lack of communication. You don't have any supporters at the field. So, I mean, even if you had to whisper to Tyson, I'm coming, there was just no communication. Right. So, I mean, even he had whispered to Tyson, I'm coming out. Tyson said, okay, let me block the striker at least, or make it more difficult for Mahalwa. So, in that sense, is lack of communication. Then also, when, like Jonty was saying, when you come out, you have to make sure you make contact. With the ball, obviously, in that sense. The third goal, I think it was at his side of the goals, but I also understand that because of the distance, it's a lot easier to get the ball over the wall. So you kind of do want to cover the wall to a certain degree.
Right.
But his whole technique on getting across the goals was wrong, because if you watch it properly, you'll see that he took 2 side steps when he should have actually done a crossover run, and then it would have propelled him, which means he would have exploded. You would have actually gone much further past the pole, which with a side step, you actually just reached the pole. But had he done a crossover run and then exploded, you'd have gone well beyond the pole and probably would have saved it quite comfortably. Again, we can look at it from bad goalkeeping, but we can also understand and have a little bit of empathy towards him. Because again, like Jonty said, played 22, 23 games in the last 3 seasons, and expect him to. Yes, we do expect, because he's a professional, but at the end of the day, again, you have to have that little bit of empathy. It was bad goalkeeping, but also to a certain degree we understand. And again, like Jonty was saying, I think Goss will probably come in immaterial if. I think even if Benson had a very good game and they won the game, I think Goss would have still come in, because Goss has played a lot more and over the season. So yeah.
Okay. Well, gents, yeah, let's now look ahead, obviously, as we see these 2 sides in Sundowns and Celtic being the finalists. That should be a cracking finale for the Nedbank Cup. But we do have now the resumption of the league proper, with a big game with Sundowns and Pirates in action, Mazola. Of course, now what it afforded was Coach Zimbabwe a chance to see and shape up Sundowns in terms of how they're doing. But then, of course, you don't know what you're going to get out of Pirates if, they're not 100%. So how do they approach this one, knowing that the team they're up against have now got a game under their belt?
Yeah, look, I even asked the coach. Sorry.
No worries.
I asked the coach earlier today, Coach Zimbabwe, that is, Coach Zimbabwe, that is, just asking him whether it's an advantage for him to have seen Orlando Pirates, to have seen Mamelodi Sundowns rather in action a few days before. Whether that's an advantage for Sundowns or whether that's an advantage for him, in that he's seen them play and now he's sort of has a way of thinking about how they play and has a few more days extra to prepare. And he says it depends how you look at it. You know, it could go either way, because Sundowns have had an opportunity to get full 90 minutes under their belt, and maybe to our point again that you kind of need those early games to, you know, to sort of iron out some errors. And Sundowns had a lot of errors that they would have seen and tried to work on. And maybe if you flip it, it's an advantage to Orlando Pirates, because they know that maybe Madisha is a bit rusty. If you press him hard enough, he'll give away possession. If you got your Mangos, if you got Memelas, your Loch, you know, if they put him under enough pressure, he'll cave, and they could benefit from that. So it'll be interesting to see. But remember, the last time the two sides met, Orlando Pirates were the winners in that game. Mango, you know, continuing his goal-scoring run. Zinbawa continuing his impact, having been at Orlando Pirates, and I think in about 7 or 8 matches, he's only lost once, and that was to Kaizer Chiefs in the derby. But he's pretty much done well, Zinbawa, and I think if they can build from that, in fact, I think this is an advantage to Zinbawa, because he would have had, obviously it's unprecedented times. He would not have preferred to have this lockdown or whatever, but it did sort of give him more time to work with his players. Because remember, he arrived on the 10th of December, immediately had a fixture. Then there was that 2-week break before, you know, Christmas, and then after that, it was immediately the second half of the season, from January until obviously March, when we had lockdown. So he's never really had enough time, although he had an immediate impact. I think you could also argue that it was the new manager bounce, as Jonty likes to call it sometimes, when you have the new manager bounce. But he could have taken advantage of the fact that they've been training now for 5 weeks with no games. So it depends how you look at it. Some may argue that, you know, they were gaining momentum. He wouldn't have wanted that break when they were picking up speed. But some can argue that it's given him some time to actually look back, reflect on the 10 or so games he's been in charge, and he can sort of brush it up a little bit for them to understand him a bit more. So we could see an Orlando Pirates that looks even better, you know. But of course, you have to take into consideration maybe, you know, the current situation with COVID, some players possibly having had the virus, and some having recovered from injury, and some not being in tip-top shape. So you have to bring in all those factors. But I think, you know, it should be an entertaining game. If they are both as rusty as we think they will be, you could see a lot of goals as well.
Yeah, I mean, to that point that Mazola is making, Jonty, about the term that you use, the new manager bounce, I guess the time, like that Zinbawa has gotten will allow him to make it less a game of chance now and more a game of philosophy in terms of betting down what he believes is going to help them win things in future. And so that this time would have given him the opportunity for that. But it's a strange one, because it's not been a normal preseason in that he's been able to see how that plays out on the pitch.
Well, he could have worked on enough theory on his notepad or while he's been sitting at home, but I don't think it's difficult when you can't implement that on the training ground. And, you know, in this short space of time, it's unique for everyone. I think more he should be judged on next season and what Pirates do next season more than he can be sort of judged on the rest of this season. I think it's a bonus. It gives them a sort of a free hit in a way, Pirates, because if they do sort of win the rest of the games and somehow win the league, you know, you know, it's a real bonus for them. But if they don't, well, you can put it down to the fact that they had this long break and they've, you know, they were never really in it. So he's been playing. He's carried on today in that press conference that I also saw. He carried on with the kind of we're not in the title race. It's between Sundowns and Chiefs, and you know, we're just you know, we're going to do our best, play it game by game. But he played down their title chances again. So he's in a position really of, I think, quite a good position in the sense. He's got kind of a bit of leeway because it's this COVID and because he took over with the team, as he said today, in 11th or 12th in the league. So in some sense, he's definitely done a fantastic job, whether it's new manager bounce or not. He's done a terrific job to get them up there into 3rd or 4th. I think they're 4th, just behind SuperSport, but with games in hand. So he's done a you know, a really good job to get them up there. And again, it was interesting, you know, because he mentioned, as Mazola mentioned, he said it's can be an advantage, it can be a disadvantage, because Pizzo after the Wits game almost said exactly the same thing. He said maybe it'll be an advantage for us because we've had a game, we know what football in COVID is like, and maybe it'll be a disadvantage because they've had time to rest, and he mentioned like possibly that he wanted to take off Rivaldo Coetzee, but he couldn't do it, and Coetzee might have a problem. He mentioned injuries, but in the same breath, Sundowns have a big squad, as I mentioned earlier, and Zimbabwe even mentioned today that maybe Pizzo was resting Jali for the Pirates game. So he has that luxury. I'm not sure many other coaches have a luxury. However, whether Jali was naughty during the break or not, I think he would get into most teams in the top flight. So it's all just a bit of mind games, a bit of chatter, pre-match chatter, but it's hard to know who will benefit, I think, when it comes to tomorrow night.
Shu-Aib, looking at Orlando Pirates' role in the title race this season, of course, they're sitting in 4th position. Are they just going to be party spoilers, or do you see them maybe just, edging or giving it a near run to the other 2 teams in the mix so that they finish as high as possible? Or do you see this one as more end of the season for the coach to bed in, not lose games, and try and instill his philosophy and give it a go next season? How do you see them factoring in?
No, look, I think that the COVID break, first of all, it probably hit them the worst because they had 3 wins in a row. Besides Maritzburg, and I think it's Maritzburg and them, they were probably felt it the worst because they were actually in a good momentum. Had we had this conversation end of March, I would have said, no, look, they're still in it. And I think they would have beaten. I would have actually put my money on them to beat Sundowns had it been that time. Now it's a little bit difficult. So I think the sides are a little bit, they're in it mathematically to win the league. But knowing Fadlu personally and speaking to him about the coach wants to win. So he's going to go out and going to play to win. I think it's a little bit too late, or not too late, because mathematically there's a possibility of them winning the league. But I think, like Jonty is saying, I think this is preparation for next season. And I always said when the league is going to resume, we should say it's Chiefs and Sundowns, fighting for this league. But I think the start of the new season is going to start a lot better than what it did in the previous seasons, because now you're sitting with 7 good pre-season games, if you want to call it that, a short break, and then they're going to go into and I think the season is going to start a lot better. But I think Pirates would fight till the end this season. But next season, I definitely think with what I've seen of the new coach of Pirates, they're going to contend for the league. They're going to be in contention next season for the league, definitely.
Okay, gents, before we move on to looking at the other game, just your predictions quickly, starting with you, Shu-Aib. How do you see the one between Sundowns and Pirates going?
I'm going to go for a draw. And there's going to be goals as well. So I'm going to go with a draw in that one.
A draw with goals. Okay, Mazet, how do you see that one? What's your prediction?
It's a tough one, but I think maybe Pirates could edge it. I would maybe say 2-1 Pirates.
Okay, 2-1 Pirates. Jonty?
Mazola endearing himself to the Sundowns fans again. I'm going to go with Sundowns. Actually, I think their determination to win the league. Zimbabwe mentioned that the pressure is kind of on them, but sometimes pressure can do good things to a team, and I think Sundowns respond quite well when they're under pressure. So I'm going to go for a Sundowns win and maybe annoy some Pirates fans.
Okay, there we go. I think I'm going to stick with Shu-Aib with this one. I score a draw as well. I see it. But yeah, let's look ahead to the other one, which sees Bidvest Wits. And they're up against Chiefs. Shu-Aib, what did you get in terms of their conduct, their approach, their body language from the Wits players? Because obviously a lot has been said about the club now, obviously, being sold and its history coming to an end at the end of the season. Did you see the players being motivated, applying themselves? Did it look like a squad that's, bearing this cross until the end of the season? Or did you think they played to their maximum, as much as can be expected for the first game?
Yes, no, definitely. I think they showed a lot of professionalism. Why is my question? Because you must remember the Nedbank Cup was, according to agreements, the players get financial gain. So, am I playing for the finance? Also, they've got a lot of experienced players, which I think, from what I know, the players that I do know, they are going to treat it as professional. We all know that. Yes. I mean, in the back of your mind, you're sitting, what am I playing for? And that's what I want to see now in the league. Because now what are you playing for? You couldn't, some players could think, I can't care less if this team ends up 3rd or 10th because this team is not existent from next season. So, you understand? Then also we can look at, am I going to play to try and impress some coaches? Because our coaches monitoring some of the players? Yes, they are. So, I do think they're going to fight. I think Gavin is also professional enough to get his team with Dylan Shepherd to get their team to, off the field, we'll sort out the off the field business and the strikes or, whatever grievances you have, we'll sort that out. But on the field, let's have give a good competitive professional performance. So I do think that they're going to go all out. They're going to make it tough for Chiefs because even if it was me, I know I'm playing a team fighting for the league. I'm going to make it as tough as possible for you. And I think most of their players are going to add that type of value to obviously to the game.
Mazola, I mean, if they are able to play to their maximum and cause an upset and results elsewhere go their way, they can be sitting as high as 3rd after tomorrow's match day. But of course, looking at that changes the picture completely when you now have a Wits team that are somewhat in the mix. Yes, they are mathematically, but you know how it is. Once you look at the table and you see them closer to the top, you start thinking about what their approach will be for the rest of the season.
Look, I think if it weren't for this, the club being sold and obviously ceasing to exist at the end of the season, I definitely would have, to some degree, put some of my money on Wits trying to go all the way and getting a second title in the club's history. But with all the dynamics, last week we were talking about the players meeting with management, all the sort of maybe bickering is a strong word, but there is an element of that. Players wanting to know about their signing on fees, players wanting to know about their futures in many aspects, apart from the likes of Dion Hoto and Tyson, Hashim Domingo, Gift Mutupa, and Ricardo Goss, who already have clubs that they are going to next season. So, I think they look pretty good. I mean, I was actually quite surprised at just how, determined they looked against Sundowns. But I think also that came with the fact that there was an incentive, that if they go all the way, they'll share the prize money. But in the league, the story is different. I'm with Shu-Aib on this one. I want to see just how good or how determined they're going to be against Chiefs in those 2 games that they play against Chiefs, and again in their remaining matches of the season to try and finish off. If they show the determination they showed against Sundowns at the weekend, then I know that the players are professional enough to finish the season strong. But yeah, I think we wait with anticipation to see just how professional they're going to be. Because the coach did say in his press conferences that he thinks they'll be professional enough. Some of the issues have been ironed out. But what issues, because there's still quite a lot going on behind the scenes. There are players who still don't have teams. There are players who still expect they are signing on fees. There are players who maybe could relocate. So everything is up in the air, in limbo. It's the leader, the captain of the team has got a new team already.
Yeah.
So there are question marks. Does he care? Is he gonna fight? All those dynamics. So yeah, it's a terrible sort of space to be in when your future is just up in the air like that. So yeah, let's see. But like the guys have been saying, some of the guys, we've seen them playing for other teams before, or the national team. they are experienced, they are professional. But when you bring all those dynamics into the picture, are you still gonna get the same sort of heart character that you've always known them to have? Given that they feel, a lot of them feel hard done by the chairman of the club, you know, in the manner in which the club was sold, in how everything came together to eventually the club being sold to Masala Mulaudzi and now being relocated to Venda. So yeah, I think there'll be a split. There'll be some who just don't care, some who just feel like, oh well, let's just get this over and done with. There'll be some who are saying, look, we are playing for our careers here. Some of us need to have teams next season, because maybe some of them don't want to relocate to Limpopo.
For sure. And I guess, you know, depending on their output, Jonty, they could give the chairman of TTM his wish. Strange press release that came out. There was like, you know, congratulations to Wits, even though they lost against Sundowns. We thought they're going to make it to the final. So I guess he could still get his African adventure if it's, you know, finish the season well enough.
Yeah, I want to say that I doubt that letter was received very well in certain quarters at Wits. I don't know that it would have been taken in the manner perhaps it was meant, which was just to offer a congratulations from the new owner. But I'm not sure that some people feel any real kindness towards TTM for the manner in which this sale was done, although it also Bidvest have to take some responsibility for that. Yeah, they could. As Mazola mentioned, they could be that they sort of down tools a bit, but I don't think they will. I think that, you know, Gavin Hunt as a head coach, he knows how to motivate his team. Gavin Hunt's got his own motivation. You know, just think about if he beats Chiefs twice, he's been linked with that job. You know, it'll add a little marker to his CV, and maybe, you know, he can put the salary up a bit that he asked for from Chiefs if there's ever any negotiation or anything like that with all those rumours. Talang Manare, another one, if he's fit, you know, who's been on the radar of Chiefs supposedly if their transfer ban gets lifted. So there are players certainly playing for, as Mazola also mentioned, their futures. If they put up good performances in the last few games of the season, and they could get, you know, the likelihood of them getting clubs, I guess, goes up. And for other guys, I mean, Tulani Hlachwayo, for example, who's I think is going to Pirates, is BAFANA captain. I don't think he'll allow his performance level to drop. These are professional footballers at the end of the day, and it's up to them really to just be professional about it, even if they feel like you know, there's been unprofessional behaviour in the way that's been handled. It's up to the players to still act in a professional manner, and I think they will. Again, against Chiefs, it depends on injuries. Chiefs will come in fresh, but Wits have obviously had a game under their belts. But it depends if I think we might see on the team sheet. I don't. Gavin sort of did mention after the game that he won't just throw his MDC, because I know they've promoted 8 players from the MDC. He did say he won't just throw them in. Said they have to show that they can do it. But he also, you know, some of them I think did quite well when they came on as well. Or some of the younger players when they came on against Sundowns, like Human. You know, I think they showed some good stuff. So I'd like to see some more of those youngsters, but not at to the detriment of the side. So I think field your strongest possible team, and you know, everybody must put up a professional performance. And I think Wits, if they do that, Wits can certainly give Chiefs problems, and you know, can on their day can beat them.
Yeah, and speaking of Chiefs, Shu-Aib, we haven't really heard much in terms of their preparation, but, you know, obviously for Ernst Middendorp, he was having a season where he was proving a lot of the naysayers wrong. You know, the pressure now, I'm sure, is more immense in terms of having this downtime, having time to regroup, refresh, and then give it another go. Do you think he'll have benefited the most in terms of now just showing the boys with how far they've gotten that it is possible to be a good team? Now they just need to see it through.
Yeah, I think a lot has happened obviously with Chiefs now. When it comes to the preparation, I know when it comes to Middendorp, he's probably similar to Zinabau as well, where you haven't seen much in the media about the preparation. I think he's got a plan. He knows what he wants of his players, and I think now even he's got Kune, you know, also pushing the fitness. So now they're on the same level with Apai. So it will be interesting to see who he even plays now, because as much as I know, I would love a pie to start again. Or to continue now, because he's done really well in the league for them. But to have both of them, it's just that extra motivation. So, and I think also he's a guy, because there's Middendorp, when there's a lot of naysayers, he wants to prove them wrong. And I think he's got so much people that he needs to prove wrong that he really wants this. So I think he's going to go all out. I think he must have pushed the team as much as they could in this time now for the preparation. So I'm excited to see what they can do. I think they started off pretty well. So his preparation his preseason of this season was pretty good. So I think him preparing the team now will also be something similar. And I think they would be one of the few teams that will actually come out, not guns blazing, but a lot better than all the others. So I do expect them to have a good competitive game.
What do you think? Do you think he's playing for his job, Shu-Aib? I mean, do you think that no matter what happens, he'll be there next season? Do you think if he wins, he's there next season? If he doesn't win, he's not there next season? Which one do you think it is?
Look, for me, it's sad. It's sad that you're doing so well, and yet people are still not on your side. When you're winning, then they want good football. When you give them good football and you're losing, then they want results. So for me, it's like you can never really prove your worth or impress them or get them on your side. So for me, I really want them to win the league. I'm going to be honest. I think they deserve it. I think Chiefs deserve the league for what they've done this season. And I think it is. If he doesn't win the league, he'll probably get fired. If he, Sari won the league. And they sacked him. So you never know. He might even win the league and still get sacked. But I really hope for him and for the team that they do win the league. And I'm hoping that they'll keep him even if they don't.
Okay, gents, your predictions for this one as we come to the end of the show. Mazola, let's start with you. We'll go Jonty next, and we'll end with Shu-Aib. Mazet?
Yeah, look, tough one here because Wits, you've got all those dynamics, and Chiefs, are gunning for the title as well, top of the log. I think the mere fact that so much has happened behind the scenes at Wits, and Chiefs want to end a 5-year-long trophy drought. I think I'm pressed to sort of go for Chiefs, but a narrow win, 1-0 to Chiefs.
Okay. Jonty, what do you reckon?
I think Chiefs will win as well. I think their determination to win the title will see them through this one. Whether they or Sundowns will win it at the end of the season, I'm not 100% sure. But I think they'll win this one. Even though Wits, I think, will put up another good game. I'm going to go like 2-1 to Chiefs. 2-1
to Chiefs. Shu-Aib?
Yeah. I'm also looking at it. I think because of their desire to wanting to win the league, over Wits's, what are we playing for? I mean, that's what players are asking themselves now. So if they're going to have 8 players, when they ask themselves, what are we playing? What am I playing for? I'm not playing for anything. I'm playing to dissolve a team at the end of the season. I found myself a club already. So I'm going to go also with Chiefs. And like we all know, most of the games, there's going to be mistakes. And I think whoever's going to capitalize most on the mistakes is going to win. And I think Chiefs has the firepower to capitalize. So I'm going to also go with the Chiefs win. Comfortable win.
Okay, I'm going to take the one game under the belt for Wits under consideration and go with another score draw. I know it's boring, but that's going to be my prediction. Before we end off, just to let you guys know that the new season will be kicking off around the 9th and 10th of October. And then we have the transfer window from the 22nd to the 17th, 22nd of September rather, to the 17th of November, with the second one coming in February until the end of Feb. So a month there or so, just under a month, just to keep you up to date with what's happening as far as the new season is concerned. But as we've done here, we've looked ahead to the games that are going to help settle this season. And it's on this note, I want to say thank you to my panel, Jonty, Shu-Aib, and Mazola. Really appreciate you guys coming through on this public holiday to chat some soccer. And to you too for tuning in to the Frontrunner Football Podcast. From myself, Kamza, Mbatha, and the team that make this possible. Until we meet again in a couple of days' time, enjoy all the football. We'll reflect and review and look ahead once again come the second episode of this week. Until then, take care.